Welcome back, everybody, to Hoops HD. It is
Woohoo.
Thursday evening, February 24th, a little before 9:30 p.m. Eastern, which means it's time for
Bracket,
our
bracket,
weekly.
bracket,
I
bracket,
think the frog is
bracket.
riveting. Oh, the puppet
We've got a
is riveting.
bracket. Building a bracket.
All right, don't make me keep going Juwan Howard on you there, Griggs. I'm your This is the Bracket
Doing.
Rundown Show. I'm your host, Chad Sherwood. John Teitel and David Dorman up top here. Matt Sikowski is back with us for the first time in a while in the center square there. Mike Chop below him on the bottom line. Uh, Matt sides, we've got David Griggs and Joby Fortson, so a very full panel of Hoops HD, uh, Hoops HDers and experts tonight, and a puppet.
I'm an expert. I'm an expert. We've been over this.
What we are doing tonight, though, is building a seed list. Now, the actual NCAA tournament selection committee, what they do on the few days before Selection Sunday is they gather together, they choose the teams that go into the field, they rank those teams 1 through 68. They then build a bracket off of those rankings. We are going to do at least the first two of those steps, choosing the teams and ranking them in about an hour.
Yeah,
What
as we
takes
go.
about a week. Uh,
Yeah,
yeah, and the bracket, after we're done with the show, we're going to bracket it up. If you look below, you can actually see the bracket. You've just ruined the show, so don't do it.
yeah.
If
It's
you want more
down there.
information, actually, though, on how it's all done, we actually had a chance yesterday afternoon to speak with the selection chairman, Tom Burnett. Go up top there. There's a link right to the interview with him. It takes about 45 minutes. He was very gracious to talk with us.
Yeah,
Real great information up there.
yeah. And Tom, if you're watching, we're going to show you guys what you need to be doing right now.
Um, This is the seed list we're going to be building is 1 through 68. We're really just going to go until we've finished all the at-large bids. I'm going to fill in the rest of the teams at the very end of the show, but it should take us down through about the end of the 12 line. As we put each team in, we're going to see various metrics show up, including their team's net ratings. That's the main NCAA metric. OAR is an average of all rankings that we've put together. SOS is the team's strength of schedule. POM is the team's KenPom rating. JNG, Joey, you're with us tonight. That is your JNG rating, which is the #1 computer metric out there in the entire world. So maybe we should just put the JNG up and be done with the show in 5 minutes. But
Yeah, I'm going to start my own metric. It's going to be better.
Yeah, IUPUI #1 makes it invalid. But let's just get right to it here. I'm going to call each of you to give me 4 teams. We're going to debate it. We'll make any changes if it's unanimous consent or any type of consent. If there's totally lost here, I'm going to be the tiebreaker tonight. Matt, it's your first time being with us for a while, so I feel I'll go to you. Why don't you give us the 1 seeds right now?
All right. Well, the committee did the work for me, although I've changed the order up a little bit. But I have Gonzaga #1 overall. I've bumped Arizona up to #2 overall after Auburn's lost to Florida last weekend. Still have Auburn #3 overall. In Kansas #4, even though I love to put Kentucky here, especially because they drilled Kansas head-to-head at Fog Allen. But Kansas is just number of wins, and that's too much. They have to be on the one line.
Let's pull up some profiles. And not Cleveland State and Utah State. Those are not the profiles we want to pull.
Who are you looking at?
I was looking at Cleveland State and Utah State apparently at some point here. Kansas and Kentucky though. Joby, what do you think? Is Kansas right here on this line, or is there argument for Kentucky who won at Kansas?
Now, hey, one game in Kentucky is certainly going to be listed on the next line. So I'm not here to punish Big Blue, but come on, look at the left column, but also more importantly, look who's leading the best conference by a mile. I mean, the Big 12 lead means something here. And when you combine it with a resume that Kansas has, even with the head-to-head, you gotta go with Kansas.
Well, can I disagree here, Joby, because I don't think it's just one game. I think it is the win at Kansas and the win at Alabama, whereas nobody that Kansas has beaten in a true road game is as high as either one of those teams, much less both of them. Iowa State may be wearing white, maybe, but you're using your imagination to get them there. Kentucky's won a game against Kansas and another against the team that if they're not a protected speed, they're pretty damn close. So I think that that's a big deal. And you know, some of these quad one wins at West Virginia, at St. John's, these are just not like teams that distinguish you as a 1 seed the way beating a protected seed on the road does. And Kentucky's done it twice.
I mean, like beating Texas A&M.
I mean, I'm not going there, but I mean, yeah, to your point, yes.
I mean, yeah,
like,
both teams have
Or
those,
beating North Carolina.
because I do,
Yeah,
I
or
do
North
agree
Carolina.
that I like beating.
yeah,
I mean, I do
my
like
love of
beating
North
Iowa on
Carolina is
neutral
well
surface
documented. But you know,
over West Virginia on the road. Yes,
Okay,
Iowa
okay.
win is better.
Okay, first of all, Griggs, one person at a time, please. That's not going to work. But let's get a tiebreaker here. Dorman, what do you think? Did Matt have it right with Kansas above Kentucky despite the head-to-head and winning at Alabama and
I'm
beating
with
North
Greg's.
Carolina?
I'm with Greg's.
Really?
All tier 1 wins are not the same. Kentucky's list to me is more impressive than these Oklahoma State on the road, Kansas State on the road. I know they're solid, and then when you get Kentucky's win on the road in Fog Allen, I'm going Kentucky.
I'll tell you what. Now we are 2-2. Titel, you're the expert here, I guess, in the committee. Which way should we go?
In honor of Matt's first time back in a while, I will go with a no veto.
No veto. All right. By a 3-2 margin here,
Wrong.
Kansas is going to remain up there, just barely. But we do
you
need to
are
keep.
all wrong. The committee is wrong. I am right.
We do need to keep things moving. Mike, why don't I go to you next here? Why don't you give us the 2 line?
Okay, 1 second here. Well, Kentucky,
Okay.
I have Purdue, Duke, and Texas Tech.
Kentucky, Purdue, Duke, and Texas Tech. Dorman, what do you think about that?
I have Baylor ahead of Texas Tech, although Baylor's lost to them twice. But when I look at but when I look at the resumes, I lean Baylor slightly, and I agree with the rest of them.
Titel, what do you think about that? Can you really put Baylor over Texas Tech when you have a season sweep?
Can you really put Kansas over Kentucky? We already did. No, it's a very good argument, and I think it's a coin flip between the two. My concern is that for the Baylor haters, they do have a tier 2 loss, and the record is a bit, I mean, they are better on the road than Texas Tech, which I think is the reason why I would have put Baylor ahead of them, because some people on the show think road wins are the be all and end all of seeding, but bracketing, but
They are.
I think it's a coin flip.
Yeah, that is a lot of wins away from home in quad 1, a lot for Baylor.
Yeah.
But do you also have to factor in that JTT is not going to be back, and they just haven't looked the same
Exactly.
without him?
They
Joby,
have
go
not
ahead.
played as well, Chad. That they haven't. Not to say, once again, we're talking Kansas, Kentucky. Hey, we're talking numbers 4 and 5. I think here we're talking numbers 8 and 9, or at least 7, 8 and 9. But I think Baylor's the 9 in that list.
All right. Let's get a tiebreaker here on this. Griggs, what's the tiebreaker on that?
I like Baylor a little more simply because of the sheer volume of road wins. And I know that they have the loss to Oklahoma State. And what you said is a good point. There is a little more left to play in the regular season in the conference tournament, and Texas Tech could jump over them by then. But if we're doing it as if the season ended today, which is how we're doing it, I like Baylor a little more. But there's actually a team I like more than them whenever we get to that, or if we're opening
Go ahead.
the door.
Go ahead. If you want to throw a different team out, throw it out.
It's I'll have to explain them because I know nobody else has them this high. I have Whiskey at number 8. And can we pull them up?
Yep.
Okay.
Coming up here.
Yeah,
You
and
can start talking.
even,
I'll compare
okay,
them to
even
Baylor
putting
here.
them out. But again, it's the one thing that jumps out to me, and I know that like we all have different things that pop at us. What pops to me is wins away from home against protected seeds, and they have the win at Purdue. They have a neutral win against Houston, who I know probably isn't a protected seed, but on November 23rd, this Houston team was at full strength. I think they deserve more credit for that than they would if they were to beat them today, because I think they were a better team then. And when comparing that to, say, Texas Tech, I just think that's a little bit better when you look at what they've done in true road games, even maybe a little bit better than what Baylor's done in true road games. I just think that is outstandingly good. And when you go to the other side of the resume and you look at the losses, suddenly Rutgers and Michigan State not looking so bad. That's a really, really strong resume.
Well, Matt, let me ask you here. Rutgers, I
Winning
know they're
Michigan
in.
State's really good
I,
too. Sorry,
I,
go
I, I,
ahead.
lo- yeah, Matt, Rutgers, I know is in quad 3. If you say that it really should be a quad 2 loss, it's still more quad 2 losses than Baylor has, is it not?
Yeah, and I think just the overall volume of Baylor's wins, and most of those are pretty good. I mean, the only one, like, I guess maybe at West Virginia, maybe at Oklahoma State, although I mean, they're 52, so they're still solidly in the top 75. I like Baylor's just heft of them a little more. And I mean,
Yeah, to clarify, I had Baylor ahead of Whiskey and then Texas Tech behind Whiskey.
Okay. Well, I think we've got our line here though of Kentucky, Purdue, Duke, Baylor to try to keep things moving a little bit here with Texas Tech and Wisconsin under consideration. One quick note here, I did not mention at the top of the show. We are recording this around 9:30. That means any games that go final after we started tonight obviously are not being considered in. Some big games going on, including Ohio State, Illinois, Gonzaga, San Francisco, Belmont, Murray State this evening, not factored in here. So if we don't discuss them, that's why. Dorman, let me go to you though for the 3 line.
Texas Tech, Villanova, Wisconsin, Illinois.
Titel, solid picks.
Of course, I think that we have to at least put Tennessee under consideration when you're beating my Wildcats and the other Wildcats. Like those are few. There are a few teams that have 2 tier 1 AAA wins like that. I understand that they've also had some bad losses, although the Alabama loss on the road was without Fulkerson. But I think that it's a solid pick, so I would not have a veto.
All right. Mike, what about you? Would you veto any of these teams?
No, that's basically my 3 line. I chose Texas Tech at 2 and Baylor 3 because of the head-to-head. So I mean, it's really close. I mean, it's splitting hairs. So I think this is a solid set of 3 seeded teams.
We're making it too easy here, guys. We're just gonna keep flying along here.
Well,
let me get one more.
Why
opinion.
isn't Providence on this line then? If we want to,
That would be my question.
I mean, let's make it hard. Let's make it. Why aren't they up here?
Let's put Providence up here. And I just want to make a quick comment on them because when we were talking to Tom Burnett last night, he actually brought up Providence here. I asked him a question about injuries. And
well, you insinuated Providence.
And I kind of insinuated Providence. He actually called out and said, yeah, you're talking about Providence, aren't you, pretty much? But the question was, my take on Providence was you kind of had some asterisks by the UConn win and the Wisconsin win because they were both shorthanded. And his take on it was, hey, you can't fault a team because the other team was missing its best player. You've got to give them full credit for winning at UConn and winning at Wisconsin, which kind of still makes me wonder how they ended up on the 4 line, Joby, other than your theory of the metrics.
The 15 being not just on the 4 line, 15th. Yeah, they weren't just 13-0, 13-12. They were well there. It's KenPom the metrics because they are winning ugly. And last night being example in triple overtime, perfect example of it. But they're
just
winning.
Because the roof was leaking doesn't mean it was ugly.
But they're winning and they're leading one of the toughest conferences in the country with a team that's on this line, 2 games behind them in the standings. And it's not a ridiculously unbalanced schedule. And we'll see this weekend, with Villanova, Providence playing this, see if Providence can close the deal completely. But they're going to almost assuredly win the regular season and be the 1 seed for the Big East. That's a big deal this year. The Big East is good. You're going to have over half the conference is going to be on our field tonight. Give Providence credit. And I think, and they've done their losses, I'm sorry, those are decent losses. Virginia never loses a preseason tournament. So, and while there won't be in our field tonight, they're at least, on the long list of under consideration we'll get to.
Well, I think we had a fairly good consensus still on these 4 teams, although Providence and Tennessee got a lot of love here, I know. But why don't we just go ahead and Titel move on to the 4 line, and we got those 2 under consideration.
You can remove them from under consideration and put them at the top of the 4 line, please. I'm going to need a little Pac-12 bias, so let's get the Bruins in here. And then we come to a lot of teams that have lost this week. I don't think I'm putting in Houston. I don't think I'm putting in Texas. I will put in UConn just because when you're beating a Villanova caliber team without your head coach for a half, it impresses the heck out of me.
Well, you don't count games when they're missing a coach or a player, so that game doesn't
Right.
count for
Who are you, Tom Burnett?
let's get some thoughts on this. Mike, what do you think, first of all, about these four teams?
I think it's a solid set. I mean, this was really tough for me. I mean, I had Alabama in the 4 line over UCLA because I think Alabama has better quality wins. But I mean, it's UCLA. I don't really have a problem with either. It's very close.
Griggs, I'll give you a few seconds here on Alabama. I don't know where you stand on them.
I did not have them this high.
Right.
To be fair, I think that an argument can be made, and perhaps they end up there. Maybe even the real committee puts them there. I know it's close. I didn't have them this high, and to be honest, I didn't have them as the next team out either. I had them at number 18. I like this resume. Like, look at the top of it. It's really good. But what kind of separates them from the teams that we did select are 3 and 6 on the road. I like to see a protected seed do a little better than that. And some of those losses to teams that are more or less Stallings Award candidates, I could do without that for a protected seed.
Well, Matt, don't you also have to look at Tier 4 where Alabama has failed to win a single game all season?
It's a good thing they didn't play any Tier 4 games because they're capable of taking a Tier 4 loss. Looking at, although Georgia might as well be a Tier 4 loss in my mind these days. Sad to say for my man, Mr. Crean.
Well, where would you go? Would you agree with these four teams, or would you go somewhere else?
Yeah, that's actually the exact 4. I was waiting to have to make a case for UConn, but Titel already made it.
I had UConn right there, number 16.
I guess on that line we are moving along here, which is good because I think we're going to slow down when we get towards the bubble. But so, Griggs, why don't you give me the 5 seeds? We do have Houston and Texas under consideration, but it looks like UConn and UCLA made it.
Yeah. One of the teams, it's neither one of those. Even ahead of Alabama, I have Arkansas. I love how they're playing. I think that their wins are as good or better than Alabama's. Like, Auburn swept Alabama, Arkansas got them, albeit in overtime in front of a bonkers crowd. Part of it is recency bias. I know that that's not technically one of the criteria, but I love how this Arkansas team is playing. When you look at the resume, it's really good. Then I got Alabama, and I cannot keep this team out of this area of my seed list. Marquette's resume is really, really good, and Texas after that.
Arkansas, Alabama, Marquette, Texas, correct?
Yeah.
Joby, a couple teams here. Let me start with Arkansas. Amazingly, it's a team that got off to a great start. We called them a fraud. They had a big losing streak. We said they're definitely a fraud. I think I kind of agree with Griggs, though. Do you?
I called them a fraud. I'll be the first to
I
admit
call them a
actually
fraud. Yeah.
I was aggressive in saying it. Well, they're not a fraud. I don't know if they're on this line, but they are certainly not a fraud. I had them in personally at number 21, so the first 60. But so I'm not saying that's a bad call, and I can certainly seed Arkansas there. I do want to see though, we saw losses to Memphis and SMU, so there's some cracks maybe there, but Houston still, the overall record and what they are. I still think Houston's got to be, and maybe as Griggs talks about away wins being so big, maybe we have to wait and see if Houston beats SMU this weekend just to really put them there. But right now, I still have them at that spot. But a lot rides this weekend, or when they play SMU.
That game's in Houston.
Okay, is Arkansas the team you would knock down then? Or is it Marquette?
Actually,
or is that
sorry,
Marquette
Matt,
pick?
out of these, I'd probably go Marquette, just because of the inconsistency. But man, Griggs is right. Marquette is beautiful top end of the resume. And once again, I love how the Big East is this year. Marquette is emblematic of a strong Big East. I would move Marquette down, but not
I would second that to be objective.
Yeah, when you look at Marquette's record, it doesn't feel like a 5 seed. But when you look at literally everything else, the sweep of Villanova, the home win against Illinois, who we already have in there, the win at Seton Hall, who's going to be in the field, I would imagine, Providence, who's in there, and again, undefeated against Tier 4. Amazing.
Okay. Dorman, what do you think of this argument here? Houston, Marquette, because especially if you look at those predictive metrics, they're screaming Houston right now.
I go with actual what happened on the floor. What happened in these games? Marquette has so many great Tier 1 wins. Houston, 0. I get the predictive metrics, but I'm with Marquette in this one.
All right. Well, I guess we do have to get a couple more votes in here to make a decision. Mike, what do you think?
About Marquette?
Marquette versus Houston.
I actually had Houston rated higher, but I was just thinking, oh yeah, the real committee will give them a higher seed. But you can't, Houston's like 0-4 against the top 50. Marquette, I mean, you can't ignore the quality set of wins that Marquette has. So I'd go with Marquette actually.
Non-conference strength of schedule 29. And I
Ty-
must correct you on something, Mike. The committee is watching this show, so they know what to do.
Tytel, you want to be the tiebreaker vote here, Marquette or Houston? We've got a couple going each way.
I would love to be. I actually also think, and I'm not going to vote for the Buckeyes, but I think that they belong under consideration
Yes, they
for
do.
Fair
this
enough.
line. But I think that you can't argue, as Dorman said, with just the Tier 1. It's Marquette, Marquette, Marquette.
All right. I really liked your point there, Dorman. 0-50 versus 0-4 versus the top 50. That's
Not good.
Yeah, it goes away from tiers even. It's just not, that is not good. So Houston, Ohio State's still under consideration. And Griggs, I got you on the 5 line. I'm sorry.
I just did the
You
5.
did the 5 line. We're up to 6 line.
I have Arkansas, Alabama, Marquette, and Texas.
Good. All right. Joby, I have you on the 6th line.
This is where it gets really tough. I will go with the 2 teams that were left over from the reveal this weekend. You guys made a very good point on that over 4 of the top 50. I will reverse that order, maybe cutting against what I said about 3 or 4 minutes ago. I'll go Ohio State above Houston, but both are 1-2 on this line. You're going to go really after all the crap you've been giving this team.
Yeah, I like this pick.
USC got there.
That's not where I thought you were going.
Joby, I just want you to know that I do listen to you. And I was like, man, Joby made some good points. I have USC 3 lines below this.
and LSU. LSU, just as I think Ohio State and they screams like a 5 seed, I think LSU screams a 6 seed. So they're the perfect example of a 6 seed. So LSU.
Tytel, what do you think?
I like it a lot. I think that I would at least consider Iowa here just because they've been rolling recently by beating the Buckeyes on the road. And I agree that the Spartans are fading fast, but when you beat Tom Izzo in February, it still counts. The win at Virginia is looking fine from way back in the season. But no, I think that Joby nailed this one.
There's another team I got to throw out there, Chad. Because again, you all are all wrong, and I'm probably right about this. Iowa State, and I realize you got to get past their conference record, but oh my God, their profile is good.
I actually personally really like Iowa State to be very close to this line here too. I mean, maybe not quite on it, but let me get another opinion here. Matt, what do you think? Is Iowa State, despite 6-9 in the conference, when you look at that, volume of Tier 1 wins?
I had them on my 6 line.
Yeah,
I had them on my 6 line ahead of USC. Because it's one of those, like, the record, it's like 19-9 versus 23-4, but it's a really strong 19-9 versus a fairly empty calorie 23-4. They're like, USC might as well be playing in the WCC. Look at that profile.
Yeah, and when you look at that, let me see whoever asked about this. Matt, you just spoke. Mike, what do you think? Should Iowa State perhaps be over USC because you're kind of looking for the meat on USC's profile a little here?
Yeah, I mean, I actually had USC a little bit above Iowa State, but not by much. But yeah, USC, it's kind of a soft 23-4 record. I mean, I think they do have the home win over UCLA, and that's helped them, and they're compiling a lot of wins. But I think if you go by quality wins, I think you got to give the edge to Iowa State.
All right, so you might go Iowa State. Titel, where would you go on this USC Iowa State debate here?
But I would go with Pac-12 pride. I think that there's certainly a good argument to be made for Iowa State just because of all the Tier 1 wins, but I just think they're a bit of a home court hero. And if you like road wins, as many people do, 7-2 on the right, 3-5 on the left.
But you do have at Oklahoma State, at TCU, at Creighton, neutral Xavier and Memphis. It's not awful. They're not awful at home.
TCU and Creighton are good road wins.
Well, and the thing about USC, and Titel mentions this also, is they were reeling a little bit at one point. That Stanford loss, it being a specific example of it. They have completely righted the ship, and I like how they're playing. I know we're not, we get caught up in metrics. I actually like how they're playing right now. And I didn't think I hated the way they were playing a month ago. Now I kind of like the eye test. And I know that's subjective, but yeah, that 23-4 record is more deserving today than even the 23-2, the 15-2 record pre-Stanford in the middle of that wake of losses that they were.
Well, at Oregon, home Arizona, at UCLA, still left on the calendar, so they're going to have a chance to prove themselves here. But let's have one final opinion here. Dorman, what do you think? Iowa State, USC.
Iowa State, I had a USC. I don't even understand on USC how this Washington State team is still a Tier 1 win, but Iowa State ahead of USC.
All right, that's the tiebreaker vote there. Iowa State gets on the 6th line. USC held over. And Matt, let me go to you now for the 7 line.
All right, so I will have USC here.
Okay.
I'll have Iowa. I'll have St. Mary's, and I'll have Xavier.
You wouldn't go Michigan State yet.
No, that's besides they're not playing well. Their profile wasn't even that great when I looked at to where Xavier's I know Xavier's not played super either, but Xavier's profile is still pretty good.
Okay. You didn't go Michigan State because they're not playing well, and you chose Xavier as your replacement. I got it. This is a real interesting argument here.
I like Xavier. There's similar situations. I like Xavier's profile better.
Michigan State's got a road win at Wisconsin and a neutral court win over UConn.
There's nothing. Yeah.
Yeah, where Xavier won at Creighton, and that's their only quality win away from home. The Oklahoma State and Vodtech wins away from home are frauds.
Come on, they beat the Hokies.
Joe Buford bus.
They won at Creighton. Creighton's a tournament team that I would have been even argued for a little bit higher seed, but unfortunately that Nebhard injury is going to be a bad thing for them. That might be where the Big East loses its 7th bid.
I mean, a neutral floor win against a protected seed, at least the one that we gave them, and then a true road win against another one, that's freaking really good. I mean, I kind of like Michigan State's profile better. I had Xavier quite a bit lower than this. I did have them in the field. A team that you kind of really have to peel back the onion and watch them play. I'm curious. I had Boise State on this line, and I realized that that's probably higher than where a lot of you had them. But I like their team. They're in first place in a conference that's pretty good. Personally, I think they'd clobber Xavier if they were to play them right now.
Okay, hold on a second. I've not heard much love for Xavier, so I think they're coming off here.
Okay.
The question is going to be who replaces them between Michigan State and now Boise State's the other team that's been thrown out here. So let me get a few other opinions. Dorman, where would you go here for this 4th team before knocking Xavier down?
Chad, can you also bring up Iowa here too, please? Iowa, if you look closely here, is I believe 1-6 against the top 35. I know they're playing better ball as of late, but I don't have them this high. I think they're a few seed lines lower than this. I think we're a little high on Iowa. I'm not really interested. I don't love this resume. Top 35, I believe they're 1-6.
Okay, well, we got to make some type of heads or tails out of this here. So if we're going to pull Xavier down, definitely, we might pull Iowa down. We do need to get 2 teams in here.
Boise State.
Mike, where are you? Would you leave Iowa up here? And
I agree. I agree with Dave Dorman. I mean, Iowa has been playing well, but their 7th seed is much too high. I would have Michigan State and Boise State instead of
Oh,
Iowa.
really, man? I thought I was really gonna have to fight for Boise.
Title, let's get one more opinion here. Should we have Michigan State and Boise State here instead of Iowa and Xavier?
I like Boise, but if you want to put an M state in here, I don't think Michigan State is the M state I would put in here.
Do it. Say the one that's up 35-17 right now.
MUR.
And is
John
never
Moran.
going to lose again. Go Racers, go.
Wow.
John Moran approves.
To be fair, this is more of a predictive one as well in terms of like, I don't think that Murray State could beat Boise State today. I'm just saying that I don't think Murray State is going to lose another game the rest of the year.
All right.
Um,
I actually think that I might go to the Mountain West and not choose Boise. And
Okay,
yes,
well,
I know
we-
that my team has a bad loss, but Boise lost
Well,
to
okay.
Bakersfield. So I don't
I'm
wanna hear
curious,
that.
and I really am, because every time I think dissect this Murray State profile, Titel. I'm because I know you're probably better at this than all the rest of us, like except for maybe me. But
I'd be happy to. So
yeah.
the bad things are the strength of schedule and the tier 3 loss. The good things are everything else. 10-1 on the road, 16 wins in a row, 4-1 against the board. Like losing at Auburn is nothing to lose sleep about. I understand that there's not a lot of tier 1 and tier 2. And like if Memphis slips up, then maybe they're not even going to have any against the board. But like this team just wins games.
And Titel, we don't like the strength of schedule, but when you go to the non-conference strength of schedule, isn't 99 is fairly respectable. And the problem is you play in the OVC and you've got to play Tennessee State and SIU, Edwardsville and Austin P and all these other teams
Eastern
twice.
Illinois, yeah.
But they're going to get Belmont tonight, and they're probably going to get Belmont or Moorhead again in the title game. So like this is more of a predictive thing that like I think they're going to go undefeated.
Matt, can you be talking to putting Murray State up here and replacing
Yeah,
one of your teams?
I like Murray State. I consider them actually on this line, so I have no problem putting Murray there.
Let's do it. Let's throw Boise State and Murray State up here. I think I've seen those are the teams I've heard the most love for.
Is it fair to say that Murray State this year is similar to Wofford of a few years ago?
No,
Wofford ran Rutgers.
I don't think this Murray team is that good. That Wofford team was legit top 25, round of 32. Like they were wearing white and they should have been. I don't want to crap on Murray State. Comparing them to the Wofford team, I don't think that conference was harder. That team won 4 or 5 road games against, when you looked at who they had beaten, teams that won, like in a lot of cases, it was the team's only home loss. I just don't think that Murray profile compares to that one. But the other thing is that Murray's had to sweat a little bit in games that against teams that I think they should have buried. But at the end of the day, that may have just been them being a little bit bored with who they were playing. Watching them right now, it's hard to not be
bored against Moorhead State. Moorhead State's a solid team, and they should have lost that game, I dare say. So,
yeah.
Joby, I want to give you 3 seconds here. You kind of different Mountain West team you thought should have been here instead of Boise State. Am I typing? I think I'm typing it in right now after their huge win over Wyoming last night.
Yeah, and if you look at it, they have 5 wins against the at-large board, including Boise State, who I do agree deserves some discussion here. And yes, they have problems with UNLV for whatever reason. But you know what? That's not actually that bad when you look at Bakersfield on the other side. So, I like Colorado State right now. And I know that cuts against my who's leading the conference argument I usually give, but wait, I think Colorado State will lead the conference at the end of the year.
And that's what, I don't think even losing to the 89th ranked team at home is that embarrassing. Even forget, I know we quantified it into tiers, but losing to number 89 at home, that's
not nearly as
it's a
bad
whole lot-
as
it's a whole lot better than
279.
279.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and on top of that, like I said, they've piled up more wins against the field than Boise at this stage, including over Boise. So that's why I'm on the Colorado State train a little bit here.
Okay.
For Boise versus Boise, but both are seriously should be considered here.
Well, I think we did have more love for Boise, so we are going to move on to the 8 line. I just want to give you a chance to make that argument. But Mike, you're up next on the 8 line. We do have 4 teams under consideration in Iowa, Michigan State, Colorado State, and Xavier. But give me whatever 4 teams you want.
Well, in this case, Michigan State, Colorado State, those are no-brainers. Let's see. Who's been? St. Mary's? Oh, no, St. Mary's is
We
there.
did get St. Mary's in on the last line. Yes. So Iowa and Xavier are two under consideration.
It's TCU not in yet, Creighton not in yet, Seton Hall not in
Oh,
yet.
Xavier. Xavier,
Okay.
I don't have a problem.
Okay. Xavier. And we need one more of either Iowa, and Griggs just mentioned either Seton Hall or TCU, I believe.
Is St. Mary's in?
I'll go Seton Hall.
Yeah, they're there. I'm deleting my list as we put teams in.
Okay. Let's see here.
'Cause
Dorman,
I know if I name someone that's already in, Chad will never
yeah,
let
I
me
didn't
know.
call on you, Griggs, though. So Dorman, what do you think of these four teams?
I have Iowa on the 8th seed on the 8th.
Well, hold on a
line.
second. I got to do something
I-
to Griggs here. Okay.
Ooh.
Go ahead.
Stop doing that.
I have Iowa ahead of both Xavier and Seton Hall. I like Michigan State and Colorado State on this line.
Okay, so the question is whether, at least as far as you're concerned, is whether Iowa should be above one of these teams. Matt, should Iowa be above one of these teams?
Yeah, and I take him over the Big Ten brethren, but
You take them over Michigan State?
yeah,
Wow.
I flat think they're the better
we've
team.
so underseeded Michigan State, to be very honest already. I'd be like, hell no.
Yeah, I kind of think we did too, but whatever.
Yeah, you're gonna that's gonna be a hard sell when Michigan State has three
Look-
tier one wins and Iowa has one. That's a real hard sell there.
And
I know it's at Iowa's home court, but 86-60.
But I think there's just so much more on the Michigan State side. But
Yeah.
let me throw the Title. What do you think about these four teams? And should Iowa be in above one of these teams? Again, hard sell Michigan State. Maybe a better sell on one of the other three here.
So I'm going to give a slap or a double slap to the Big East and put in Iowa and Wyoming over Xavier and Seton Hall.
Iowa and Wyoming. So we're going to hit that third Mountain West team that we did not get in yet.
Love it.
Shit.
Dorman, you like it. Joby,
Yes,
do you
I
like
do.
this Iowa and Wyoming over Xavier and Seton Hall on this line?
No, I'm not on the Wyoming train. And don't accuse me of being anti Mountain West after my last line. The Musketeers are playing poorly. That's the team that should go down, to be very honest. But it's not Wyoming. And Iowa should be up. But it's not Wyoming yet. I want to see more. The recent loss. That was a playing game for this line, maybe, is what you maybe even call the recent game.
So you leave Seton Hall here, put Iowa in, and
Seton Hall has a sneaky good profile. I really like Seton Hall's profile. Once again, 5 wins against will be our at-large field almost for sure, or at least 4 wins. One's very questionable, Mike. But
I know.
Talk about slap. But I like Seton Hall's profile. It's really solid.
Yeah. Okay. Do we have a Griggs? Are you okay with that? Let's do that. Let's put Iowa and Seton Hall here in here. Hold off on Wyoming and Xavier for now.
Not quite as big on Iowa, but I'm for that.
Okay. Then maybe we can keep moving here. And Dorman, why don't we go to the 9 line and you give me 4 teams with Wyoming and the Xavier, who continues to fall, still under consideration.
Wyoming, Xavier,
Let's try them again.
Miami,
hmm
TCU.
Miami. I just heard good line from a couple people. Mike, what do you think? Is this a good line?
It's a pretty good one. I mean, I had teams like Notre Dame and San Francisco rated a little bit higher, but I don't have too much of a problem with this.
Joby, are you on this on the? Not too much
This
of a
is my
problem?
line exactly. This is I really like. We could talk Creighton here, but this is the line I would choose. So I'm on board.
Well, I think we made this 9 line easy. Maybe Title. Let's just jump right onto the 10 line. There's been a few mentions of teams here, but with Notre Dame, San Francisco, and Creighton. But let's jump over to the 10s.
So the Dons are currently trailing the Zags, but only by 10 at halftime. So obviously, if they somehow win, then they're going to shoot a couple seed lines up. But for now, I think this is fine. I like the Irish right around having a tournament game on St. Patty's Day, possibly. So we got to get them in here. Creighton, I think I would, except now that we've heard that Nemhard has gone for the year. I know that Tom Burnett's not on the call, but I think that they're going to, number one, stop winning games in the weeks ahead, and number two, not get seated as high next month because of that. So if I had to pick some other teams, I think even though Wake did not look great the other night, that they're in this vicinity. And then I think that I'm not loving TCU, not that they're playing bad, but I think I might go with a Davidson, just again in the Murray State line of thinking that they might make a run. They might also get bumped early in the A-10 tourney because there's a lot of decent teams there, but I think they are capable of making a run and winning out.
Actually,
John,
we stuck TCU on the line above, actually, so they're already in.
but Title, you're going to have to be a little more specific when you say Wake did not look good the other night.
Okay, but let me ask you first of all about that's a good example though. What about Wake Forest versus Creighton, Title? Can we penalize Creighton yet, or do we have to wait to see what happens over the course of the next few games here? They did find a way to come back and beat St. John's without him yesterday.
No, that's a good point, Chad. So if you want to wait a week before flipping these two, I will not veto that either.
Okay. And Matt, what do you think about this also, especially with Wake Forest as the team we're looking at, because you beat Notre Dame at home. I guess that's your one tournament win.
Do not like this.
Yeah, I like Wake ahead of ND though. Even I know ND has that win over Kentucky. I think Wake's the better team.
All right,
Chad.
Did David back? Griggs, first I need you to back me up. Does Wake Forest belong in the field?
Maybe in the field, not this far in.
Chad,
Perhaps
can you pull up Rutgers next to Wake Forest, please?
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's a very close resume.
I think Rutgers blows them away. They have wins in the tier one. It's not even close.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I like Rutgers right about here.
Okay, well, I'm a Rutgers guy, and maybe I'm biased against my team because of that. But when I look at this Rutgers profile, let me give my 3 seconds on it. It's the number of wins outside of Quad 1 that are just piling up on them now, and I think they got to win these last 3 games here. Whiskey home, at Indiana, home, Penn State home.
I think they got to win 2 of them.
It would be good.
Well, you got to win Penn State home. You can't afford another bad loss, and you split those other 2, then you're going to need to do something in the Big Ten tournament. Also, in my opinion, I think there's too many losses. Title, what do you think about my Rutgers team?
I think you're spot on. They cannot lose to Penn State. I agree. It'd be nice if they can win one of the other 2, but as long as they lose to Wisconsin, that's not a bad loss. And if they lose at Indiana, that will actually help Indiana make the tournament, ironically. So I don't think that's a bad loss. As far as how far they need to go in the Big Ten tourney, I'll defer to you. I assume that they'll be seeded around an 8-9 game or so in the first round, and then have to play a top seed, maybe.
That could be what we're looking at this point, especially if they only win one more game.
They kind of do need a few to do. I think the Indiana game's huge just because it's on the road and they're 3-9 in road games. I just don't get Wake Forest really in Wake Forest or Notre Dame, either one of them this high.
Yeah, I agree. I think 10 is too high for Wake Forest. I think Wake Forest belongs closer to the cut line.
Yeah, and Notre Dame, let's pull them up here on the right. There's a reason for Notre Dame. It's the Kentucky win, at least.
Well, yeah, they beat Kentucky at a time before Kentucky's wasn't going 100 miles an hour when they beat them, but they did beat them. It is big. I like the Miami win. And if you look at this Notre Dame resume, it's like, okay, there's some things on it. Not a lot of things, but a couple of things. There's no things really on Wake's resume. The win at Virginia Tech was good, but North Carolina is really bad on the road and they're nothing special. Notre Dame is decent at home, but it's hardly like a tournament caliber win. I don't think.
Okay, well, let's.
Can I name a team with a lot of things?
I have SMU rated ahead of Wake for what it's worth.
Okay, we've got to throw this team out there. I know why no one's talking about them because of the overall record, but I don't think that's a disqualifier, especially when they put an 18 and 15 team so far inside the bubble. They were on the 9 line a few years ago. Kansas State has a better resume than anybody on this line, the whole line.
Okay. Let's take this one step at a time here because we are
Yeah.
going to be forever on this line if we keep doing this. I'll give you 3 seconds here at Kansas State, but Griggs,
Okay.
it's a 14 and 13 team.
I
I'm
just said
sorry, it's
that's
a
not
14. It's not 3 games over 500. It's 1 game over 500. But go ahead.
But if a team that's 3 games over 500 is going to be on the 9 line, that inclines me to believe that
You know what a team that's
they're going
3
to look
games
at
over
mitigation.
500 is? It's 3 times better than a team that's 1 game over 500.
Okay, yeah, okay, but when you look at a loss at Kansas, a loss at Baylor, a loss at Illinois, those do not set you back at all. And if those losses weren't on there and they had 3 tier 4 bye wins instead, everybody would be like, oh, that team's in for sure. I think you have to look at it beyond them being 14 and 13 because of the 13 losses, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 are against teams that we have on the top 5 lines.
Okay, let's move on here because I don't think you're selling anybody at K-State. We got to
Okay,
Go
I am
quickly
the only
through
one that's
here.
right. Once again, I am right. Everyone.
Dorman, what do you think of these 4 teams? Would you make any moves here on San Francisco, Notre Dame, Wake, Davidson?
I would have Rutgers on the 10 line.
Over Wake?
Yes.
Okay, Rutgers over Wake. Joby, Rutgers over Wake or somewhere else? Do we have Joby?
Joby.
Oh, Joby did mention that his connection's a little wonky.
Yeah,
No, I'm
before,
here. I'm
Okay.
here.
before
Okay.
Joby left, he told me he liked K-State, Chad.
No. I think Griggs keeps trotting out the Vanderbilt example, which, by the way, the J&G nailed. But guess what would have happened had Vanderbilt not been 18 and 15, but 18 and 16 or 17 and 15? They would have missed the tournament.
They would have been on
It
the
wasn't
10
a
line.
case of, they would have dropped a seed line like a team who's 20 and 10 or 20 and 11. They would have been excluded because they're not Georgia from 2001. Okay, so
Joby, where are you going
that's
here?
a big deal. So K-State will not be in our field tonight if I have anything to do.
Okay, Joby, how about
K-State
on this
belongs
slide
on the
here?
field.
Would you knock Wake Forest out in favor of Rutgers, Creighton, or leave them?
All right. Personally, I want Creighton there right now. And the reason why is because I don't want to punish them yet. But yes, they're on probation. They're with Nemhard's injury is real. But we got to see it. We got to see how they play it out. And they're under a microscope. They could easily, if they look awful for the next couple of games, that 10 seed where they are right now, they're out. There's a big, but let's let them give the opportunity.
Bingo.
Okay,
They could be out of this tournament.
and Titel kind of said that he would make that switch also, so I made that switch. But get one last opinion on this line to you, Matt, and then we got to move on to the 11s.
I think we got Creighton out there. There wasn't the consensus I was for ID, so I'm going to move again.
Okay, so let's go ahead. Griggs, why don't you give me the 11 seeds? We have 4 teams under consideration. Why don't you give me 4 that are not named Kansas State if you want teams that are going to stick?
Okay, hold on. I'm updating my thing here. Well, first and foremost is Kansas State. We've got to get them up there for all of the brilliant reasons I already listed. It's a West Coast love fest. I got San Diego State, BYU, and this is where I had Wake.
Okay, you don't have Rutgers or SMU yet then?
Oh, I thought we had Rutgers in.
Nope.
Rutgers, Rutgers, K-State, San Diego State, BYU.
Rutgers, K-State, San Diego State, BYU.
Yeah.
Let's go here. Matt, first of all, what do you think?
I like the San Diego State pick. I don't like any of the others. I like Rutgers in the field, but that just scream playing game to me. Like, they're good is good enough. I want them a chance. They're bad as well. That's why you got to go to Dayton. But no, I'd actually have a couple of auto bid teams, and I think I'm considering Loyola still an auto bid. I'd actually have both them and North Texas on this line. And then I think, and this is one, hey, Mike, I don't have your Michigan Wolverines here.
I was going to go to Mike next because I was going to say, Mike, does your Michigan team belong here at this point?
On the 11 line or the?
On the 11 line, in favor of over perhaps a Rutgers team that they just beat.
I say not quite. I have Michigan as one of the last 4 in. I mean, they do their strength of schedule is extremely strong, both in conference and out of conference. But when you're only 4 above 500, that's usually the bare minimum to get an at-large bid. And I have Michigan in the field, but not as an 11 without the first 4 designation.
Titel, what do you think? I mean, I think we're all going to agree that Kansas State belongs off this line here.
No, Kansas State belongs on this line.
Do
Chad,
Rutgers,
you
San Diego,
accidentally deleted Kansas
do
State. What are
Rutgers,
you
San
doing?
Diego State, and BYU belong on this line? And then and who else should be here?
I would go Wake or Michigan, and I do not have a problem with either one of them, so I'm happy to let the majority rule.
Okay, but would you agree with Rutgers, San Diego State, and BYU?
No, I would take BYU out.
Okay.
Agreed.
Yeah, I'm not certain, Joby, that BYU belongs in the field right now.
I'm not either.
Yeah, metrically, they belong in because of their preseason. They're playing like trash right now. They're lucky they're playing Loyola Marymount and Pepperdine, who are talk about your trash, very trash. One loss there, and they are done unless they beat Gonzaga in the WCC on the way. You know, so I don't like. Personally, I think the committee would have BYU possibly in if they can find a non-Sunday to play them. But you know, I personally don't have BYU in my field. I think they're recency bias, whatever you want to call it, but that's how I view it.
So should the move be Rutgers, Wake, San Diego State, Michigan?
I am going to go with that auto bid that Matt mentioned in Loyola, and you're hearing Mike. Yeah.
Not that one.
Okay, hold on.
I have Loyola here. I do.
Over which team?
Yeah.
Over
the
Michigan?
one, the empty spot. Yeah, over Michigan in this case. But Michigan's, if you went to me next, Michigan's going to be listed. So
There's an auto bid that's I think categorically better than Loyola.
Griggs is going to tell us that North Texas is better.
They are.
It's, you know, it's going
I
to
know UAB is so awesome. That's why that's
but-
a great win. No.
It's more or less that they've done a better job avoiding losses to the caliber of teams that's been beating Loyola, to be honest. Like, I've been on Loyola all year, although they did beat Evansville like a drum last night.
I personally had SMU over Wake Forest. I mean, SMU's beaten more tournament teams than Wake has. I mean,
Okay, let's take a look at that as our last debate here on for this line. Is should we have SMU in this line as opposed to a team like Wake Forest? And Dorman, what do you think? Is SMU, who has gotten hot here but had that awful 281 non-conference strength of schedule, do they belong up here?
No,
Okay.
I do. I have Wake ahead of SMU.
Wake's non-conference schedule is even worse.
Yeah. Well,
Wake's
but SMU lost to the previously mentioned trash that's Loyola.
Yeah,
you.
the good thing Wake has is no awful losses.
That SMU.
Yeah, no awful losses on Wake. I think that we're
Yeah.
probably okay there. Maybe
SMU has 2 bad losses.
maybe we
Neutral
should
court
move
against
on.
Missouri.
Joby, there are only 4 at-large bids left. There is a auto bid winner, potential auto bid team here in North Texas I've been mentioned. So why don't we do half this line here? Why don't you give me 3 teams here instead of 4?
Okay, Michigan, done.
Okay.
Michigan, I am going to pull a little bit of a shocker here because it was a win on the road. Penny Hardaway gets the call. Come on down.
Memphis.
And then this one's controversial. I know. You can crucify me after I say it, but Big Ten love, baby. Indiana, I know. They're not going to make it because their strength of schedule on this line, you know, to be so close. The committee will knock them out, and I can't blame them. But I think Indiana's profile is the best left.
Let's see here, Matt. Did he get it right with these 2 Big Ten teams sandwiched with Penny sandwiched in between?
It's not bad. I have them all kind of in this range.
Mhm.
I would, for whatever reason, I like North Texas to where if take North Texas this profile, I'd put them in this range.
Well, I'll tell you what, we can put North Texas as our next team because it won't actually take an at-large bid spot away. That'd be our automatic bid for CUSA.
And
But
the one team that has it that I'm going totally off the sidelines for is Dayton. I like the
No,
top of
I
it
have them-
and the metrics.
Yeah.
Okay, let me go. Before we put the last team in, let's talk about these first 4 we've got here already. Titel, how about these 4 teams? Michigan, Memphis, Indiana, North Texas.
It's not bad. I think that it's I'm very concerned about Memphis only because they got swept by SMU. And if you're not putting SMU in, I know there's many other factors, but I think that gives me great concern. Obviously, if Memphis beats Houston in a couple of weeks, then that puts them in, I think. I also think that you guys should care a lot more about beating Auburn. So I don't know why Florida hasn't even been under consideration yet.
Thank you. That's the one team that was
I
there's
agree.
one or two teams glaringly from under consideration. The other one, given that they're down 23 points in Murray State right now as we record this,
Yes.
maybe shouldn't be under consideration. I was going to argue that they should be in Belmont, but let's let me ask. Let's see here.
Oregon should be under consideration, I think.
Yeah, they're the only team that I have that.
I'm
we
sorry,
haven't
who was the one?
really-
Who was just
Oregon.
mentioned?
I agree
Oregon?
with that one.
Well, I'll tell you what. There is one spot left here. We have Florida, SMU, Dayton, Oregon, BYU, and Kansas State all under consideration. Let's pick somebody here. Let's go, Matt. Let me go to you. Give me your final team in, and we can kind of debate it.
I'm going Dayton on that list.
Dayton. Okay. Joby, should Dayton be the team from that list that gets our last spot over like an SMU who did sweep Memphis, who we just put in?
Yeah, over those teams, yeah. And I think Matt, I'll go with you on Dayton. I will. I'll go with you. I do think
Ooh.
you're going to hate what I'm about to say. Everybody on this call is going to say, but on the under consideration board, you got to go to Chapel Hill. I'm not saying they should be in and over Dayton, but it'd be
No,
you're fooling yourself if you don't think that they shouldn't be under consideration.
Okay, we can consider that not taking them.
I'll go with Dayton. I'll
Okay.
go with Dayton. That Kansas win, they've done enough in the A-10 to not further damage their wackiness resume. And they do scream that remember that USC team in the playing game a few
Yep.
years ago?
Oh yeah, they like 5 bad
I think
losses.
there's a lot of similarities there. And so I'm good with Dayton.
Okay.
Here's what I'm
There
going
is-
off.
2011, Joby.
Yeah.
Can I bring up one team? If you
Sure.
like Dayton's resume, I think you should like VCU's resume as well.
Let
Not
me pull up
after tonight.
VC real quick. But
Yeah,
Norman,
I agree.
would you go? Where would you go? Dayton, VCU, or would you go somebody else for this last spot?
Man, I'm okay with Dayton. I wouldn't veto it. I can't go strong for anyone else. If it would be, it's Dayton or Florida for me.
Titel, you would have gone Florida, am I right?
When Colin Castleton is healthy, he averages a double-double and beats Ohio State and Auburn. When he's not healthy, they lose at Mississippi by 16. He is a game changer.
I would have agreed with Titel, but I think we're getting outvoted here. Mike, I'll give you a final vote. Dayton, Florida, or somebody else?
I voted. Did my Florida vote count?
You voted for Dayton, didn't you?
No, I said I liked them to be considered, but
Okay. All
Well,
right,
I didn't
Mike,
put Florida in, huh?
Dayton or Florida?
I forgot about Florida. I would pick Florida. Now that win over Auburn stands out to me.
Well, on that note, we actually ended up with Florida edging it out because Griggs changed. I thought Griggs was on the
well,
Dayton
no. Well,
bandwagon.
the correct answer is K-State. In fact, K-State should be way up further.
We've got a list here of teams that are under consideration that did not make it. Dayton, SMU got debated a lot. VCU, Oregon, North Carolina. I mentioned Belmont earlier. BYU and Kansas State both out at the moment here. I guess, is there anybody else that's even close at the moment to an at-large bid? And I'm not certain that there really is, but Joby, is there anybody else I've got a ninth
Well,
spot there.
you're going to me, and ironically, I mean, yes, probably behind all those teams but Kansas State is my team, because
Oh.
they need to do more, but they have opportunities. They need to be awake or a Duke in the conference tournament, but if they sweep through, they're in serious consideration, but probably not because they'll be bid thieves that take that put the test.
Yeah, I argue St. Bonaventure's not that far away also, but we're really scraping now, I think also. I think it shows as you get further on in the season that the under consideration board starts to shrink as well. But on that note, I did fill in Iona there as the final of the 12 seeds as an
Great.
auto bid winner. The 13 seeds, real quick to run them down. We've got South Dakota State, who came back from down big to win an overtime at Oral Roberts tonight. New Mexico State, Toledo, and Chattanooga. Vermont, Towson, Princeton, Texas State on the 14 line. Wagner, Montana State, Jacksonville State, and Long Beach State on the 15 line. Wagner falling down the line after losing at Fairleigh Dickinson tonight. Longwood, Norfolk State, Cleveland State, Colgate Southern, and New Orleans finish out the field. But
Yeah.
there is our
And-
field. Our first four games would be Florida versus Indiana in one and Michigan versus Memphis in the other one.
Well, Chad, you just flew through those. What if we want more about those teams? What do we do then?
What you should do then is watch more of the website, because we do every week an Under the Radar podcast. So we did one last night. Just scroll down a little bit lower.
Yeah.
Watch it. We talked about every single one of those teams last night.
Yeah.
On that note, I want to run through each of you for any other final thoughts on what we did or anything else about college basketball at all. Dorman, let me start with you.
I think the ACC is in trouble. Miami and Wake barely made this field. There was a lot of discussion there, but mostly for these teams, there's only bad losses ahead unless you're going to beat Duke. We've said it all year long, but I think the ACC has a really big down year, and the bids are going to be limited. 3 I see is probably going to be their number.
Matt.
Well, the one is I'm the metric guy here, but looking at the team sheets, I think something to be done is Alan Bykowski from Marquette blog wrote a great article about the BPI. I think that needs to be replaced, and Torvik should be on the team sheets. I think it's an objectively better metric anyway, and it's independent. Whereas with BPI, it has ESPN tie-in, and of course ESPN wants their conference's teams in. So I'd get that off the team sheet and put Torvik on there. I think it's a much better metric anyway.
Interestingly, 2 of the metrics from ESPN are either that, and the SOR is also an ESPN-based metric. So, so that their ESPN is on twice. So if you think there is something, I'm not going to say that there's anything going on behind the scenes with ESPN, but if you think there is, they are getting 2 metrics on the official team sheets. Let me go over to Mike. Let me go over to you.
Yeah, to piggyback on David Dorman's comments, who would have thought that the West Coast Conference could potentially have more bids than the ACC? It's very possible. 4-3 is a possibility. But I'm just really looking forward. I'm excited about the potentially the best 2 weeks of the year with the conference championship week, and not to mention the NCAA tournament.
Yes, we all are. Actually, we got our championship week video notebooks starting coming Sunday evening.
Sunday.
So keep an eye on
Sunday.
on that. Joby.
And I agree. Let me just, I have a point, but I want to, before I go into it, give Matt a shout out. Very good point, Matt. Excellent point. As the guy who does metrics, Torvik, as a note, tied the JNG last year in his T rank prediction. And that's the metric, in all honesty, that they should use because that's a resume metric, and they need a resume metric in there. I would say use the JNG, but that's just me.
We're working on that, Joby. We're working on that.
You didn't push it with Tom last night. So,
no. Well, what's funny about the JNG is that it tries to predict the committee. So the committee would be using a poll that tries to predict them. I love it.
It would show where they're way off in their thinking, on their normal thinking. Looking at our bracket, 5 versus 12 is always where upsets galore happen, etc. I don't see a whole lot of upsets over these 12s versus these 5s. I know they always happen, but sometimes there are years where it doesn't. This is one of those years because those 5s are pretty darn strong, and the 12s are. I mean, they're not bad teams. I actually think the bubble's a little stronger than it normally is, but I don't see the oomph. The 5s, and the reason why is because I think all the way through 1 through the 5 and into the 6 line is some of the deepest that we've seen at the top end of the bracket in a while.
I'll tell you, Joby, I think the 2 most dangerous 12s are North Texas and Iona, the 2 auto bids that we threw in there.
North
Yeah, I think the 13s are a lot more dangerous than the 12s.
Titel.
Yes.
So my final thought on the bracket is that if you see the 6-11 matchup, Chad and Rutgers have been waiting 11 months for a chance to face Houston. And if they can get him when they're injured, I think that would make Chad's day, to be honest. My final thought, not on the bracket, is about I know that the NCAA tournament has some rules about when certain teams can play, like BYU on Sundays, and that you can't face a conference opponent in the first round and stuff like that. But we could have a very new and interesting problem this year. Imagine this scenario. You got Appalachian State, who wins the Sun Belt tourney and gets like a 15 seed. And you get a San Francisco team who makes it as an at-large, say a 10 seed. and they both get sent to the same first and second round site. They both pull off a first round upset, and they face each other in the second round. We got a tie game, final seconds, and the Mountaineers dump the ball down low in the post to their big man on the left, Sasha Glushkov from Russia. Who's guarding him? Ukrainian center Volodymyr Markovetsky from the Ukraine. I know the puppet loves to discuss the border war. He might not have seen anything yet.
Yeah, wow.
I'll be rooting for San Francisco in that scenario.
Like the Dons.
Greg, do you want to finish off the show?
Yeah, Florida, the last team in, so you got to figure that there's, you know, of the 49 that we put in and about the 9 more that we looked at, I think that there's maybe 60 teams that are still, if you go up and look at the survival board, which you should be doing every hour, really, you'll see that who could still, in theory, make it into the field if they win out, and who's a lock and who isn't. But realistically, I think we're talking about 60 teams that have a probable chance. And by probable, I mean they don't have to win out to their championship game to even get on the bubble of making the field. So that's typically what we have at this point of the year, like going in the championship week. So everything kind of feels a little bit normal, doesn't it?
Maybe it does.
Yeah.
Normal is good. But on that note, if you want to go ahead now and look down below, you can see the final bracket that we put together and see what the actual matchups ended up being.
Yeah.
But
look, there it is. There it is.
on behalf of John Titel and David Dorman up here, Joey Forts is now in the center square, Matt Zakowski and David Griggs to his sides, Mike Cha down in the bottom row there. I'm Chad Sherwood. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back again. As we said, Sunday evening, we're going to be getting our Championship Week video notebooks. We're going to have a full Hoops HD report Monday. We'll have a couple more bracket rundown shows again as well before the end of the season. Tons of content. Check out the Tom Burnett interview up there as well. Thanks for joining us. Talk to you again real soon.